to hear from the next submitter, which is Leslie Clark, on behalf of Vaping Industry Association of New Zealand. Kia ora, Leslie, welcome to the Health Committee. You've seen how this works, so you have 10 minutes. And if you want to leave some time for questions, you may wish to do that.
Thank you. I have done this a few times before, just wearing a different hat. So quite exciting to be back, and thank you. Kia ora, ko Leslie Clark, taku ingoa. I am, at this point in time, the Establishment Executive Director of VIANZ, the Vaping Industry Association of New Zealand. And it's probably worthwhile, given this is our first outing, that I talk a little bit about that and then refer briefly to our submission. I have to say our submission was the shortest one I think I've ever been involved in. And I can't promise that the next one will be that brief. So in terms of VIANZ, we're in the process of forming what will be the Vaping Industry Association of New Zealand. It is intended to be an industry body for New Zealand vaping businesses in retail, manufacturing, distribution and export. As an industry association, we intend to act as a credible voice to government and public on matters concerning vaping in New Zealand with a focus on public good. We acknowledge that the vaping industry, while regulated, also operates under social licence. In essence, society needs to have confidence that the industry will behave responsibly. As such, it is important that the industry works collectively to maintain the social licence. It is our intention to develop a code of practice, and we will look to working with the Vaping Regulation Authority and other stakeholders to progress this as our organisation comes up to speed. Our draft constitution further excludes big tobacco and big pharma from VIANZ membership, just to be clear about that. Turning to our submission on the bill, we fully support the government's goal to reduce smoking rates to less than 5% across all populations by 2025, and we fully support the objectives of this bill. As our written submission says, vaping is the most disruptive threat to smoking to date. The 2020 regulation of vaping corresponded with the largest fall in smoking prevalence ever recorded in the New Zealand Health Survey. This is evidence that New Zealand's right touch, and I say right deliberately, right touch regulatory approach to vaping works and must be maintained to support the 450,000 smokers, current smokers, towards our goal of smoke-free Aotearoa 2025. As the interventions to reduce smoked tobacco products come into effect, the government must ensure equitable access to safer alternatives to support the well-being of dependent smokers and mitigate unintended consequences of reduced supply. Some specifics regarding the legislation, the bill, just a couple really briefly. First, we would like to see that general vape retailers are enabled to actively market notified products to smokers. For example, this could be done by inserting a new clause into subsection 27.3 of the Act, relaxing the issue of prohibited communications when regulated smoking products are requested. At the moment, as I understand it, if tobacco is requested, the general retailer can ask and promote vaping as an alternative, but that's essentially where the conversation stops. They can't talk about various products other than this is the product and this is the price, and it limits that communication that may ultimately help that person to make the better purchase decision. In this way, we would use the 8,000, approximate 8,000 general retailers to maximum effect, because they would be supporting the shift that we are looking for. Secondly, we would like to see the Governor-General be given, the Director-General, I'm sure the Governor-General is not that interested, the Director-General of Health discretion to allow general vape retailers to sell extended flavour portfolio in places where the specialist vape retailers are uneconomic. This is about equity. This is about smaller communities where it's just not commercially viable to set up a specialist vape retailer, but the adults that would benefit and need to be attracted to vaping as an alternative, if that's the path they are following, have that sort of choice and all of the tools that are available for cessation services and access to less harmful alternatives. Finally, in terms of the legislation, just a wee comment around data. In the bill, individual specialist vape retailers' sales data may become public, and that is a concern, particularly around crime, to be honest. We wish to see the committee recommend that such data is covered by the Official Information Act. Also, the scope of public bodies who may access databases is huge. The state does have a responsibility, however, to treat both personal and commercial information with care. It is good regulatory practice to limit the access of data to organisations that have clear and relevant purpose for obtaining that data. Just in closing, I think it's important to note that the final component of the regulations that were passed in 2021 only took effect a matter of weeks ago. We note this particularly because the vaping aspects in these regulations at this time are a work in progress and need to be allowed, and most importantly, need to be operationalised. A lot of the things that we're hearing about at the moment are not an issue with regulation, but the operationalisation of the regulations to ensure compliance with them. We believe that the Vaping Regulatory Authority needs to step up in this regard, and as an industry association, we would welcome the opportunity to work with them. May I just make a brief comment regarding the questions that were of safety that were raised in the last submission? Look, I'm not a scientist. I have a master's in public policy degree, so I come wearing a policy hat rather than a scientific hat. But we do obviously need public policy to be informed by the evidence and the science, and that's where the challenge is at this point in time. Yes, there are things that we don't know about vaping, but certainly the evidence points to the fact that it will be less harmful than tobacco use. And what we want to do is we want to make sure that we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater and limit the access to an effective tool for smoking cessation on the basis of information that we don't fully understand. The other question about how soon will we know? I mean, I would suggest that science moves a little bit faster these days than it did several generations ago when tobacco became part of our society. We've seen this with psychoactive substances and things like that. So we're never going to say that vaping is safe, but we will say quite clearly that vaping is safer. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. Sarah Pallett, then Dr. Reti.
Kia ora, Leslie, thank you for your submission. I just wondered, in your written submission, you made the assertion that there's no gateway to smoking, but evidence proved the reverse to be true. I wonder if you're able to provide that evidence to the committee, because it doesn't form part of your submission. I'd just be really interested to see it.
Sure, yes.
Okay. I don't expect you to remember it off the top of your head,
No.
but I would be really grateful to see that, because that's been an issue of concern that has been expressed.
Absolutely.
Previously.
Yeah. So we can get that through to the clerk.
That would be helpful. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you. That was Dr. Reti's question as well.
Oh, really?
Well done. Leslie, thank you. That concludes your time with the Select Committee
Thank you.
this afternoon. So thanks again.
Oh, and congratulations too. I think the government is doing a fantastic role in the smoke tobacco area and all of the relevant concerns around that. So it's really encouraging. Thank you.